Do, 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 do. Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're all having a super fantastic, sparkling Serenity Sunday. Sorry, I forgot there for a minute what day I was on. That is not good. Just putting my notes here so I can see them. Okay. So how was your day? Did you get any nice rest and relaxation? I feel so much better now. After I talked with you guys earlier today, I went and had a couple of things to do online, got that taken care of, and then went and had a delicious nap. Oh, went and read for a little bit and then dozed off, and Zeffie came in and joined me. She was actually up on her bed, and I went over there and said, "You want to come join me for a nap?" And she just looks at me and puts her head back down and goes back to sleep. I'm like, okay, fine. But while I was reading, she comes in and jumps up and curls up in her bed and goes to sleep. So, yeah, we had a delay. And when I woke up, she was still there. So it was a good 2-hour nap. It felt so good. After all the stress of the morning at the dog park and everything else, it was nice just to let that go, wake up feeling refreshed. We went for a nice long walk this evening, came back, found out one of the houses down the road that had been moving out boxes and stuff the other day now has a for sale sign in front of it. And it's about 5 doors down from us on the other side of the road, which means their main living area faces east. And they have this huge screen porch area. It's actually quite a nice place. It's a stucco and it's painted a dark green with red trim. It looks really pretty. But yeah, no idea how much they're asking for it or anything like that. They just got a telephone number there. There was one that was up behind us a few rows back, and they had a for sale sign out there the other day. If I remember correctly, it was only up for like 4 days, and then it was gone. So obviously the place has either been sold or they've decided not to sell it right now. But the way places are getting snapped up in here, it wouldn't surprise me if it was sold. So I'm curious to see how long the for sale sign sits out front of this one. It's actually a nice place. It's got a nice outdoor patio area, a raised patio area, and then they've got this big screened area, and then they've got a little backyard that's all fenced and everything else. So for Zeffie, it would be great because it would give her a lot of place to run around outside if we were sitting out there. And it's got a nice patio area for entertaining on and that sort of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And so, yeah, we knew it was coming. I figured it was coming. I just didn't know when. So and yesterday they had no signs out there. They had no signs out there this morning when we came back from the dog park, but I went up this afternoon, and they're doing showings by appointments only, which is understandable. But I'm waiting to see about the house across the road, because I've been seeing boxes coming out of that place too. And I know that they were looking to move to Oregon. So we'll keep an eye on that one too. But it's always interesting to see when places go on the market, how much they're on the market for and all of that. Oh, and then I got a text from my former landlord from Solana Beach to say, and her and her brother actually owned the house together after her father passed away. And then he bought her out. And she said, "Oh, they've got it on the market." And I was like, really? And so I went and found the listing for it and went through, oh, they've made some changes. They've made some really nice changes, and they've made some not so good changes. But I said, I noticed the house next door, the son was a handyman, and noticed the place next door had gone on the market and had sold back in December of 2020. And they had done, and whoever purchased it have done an incredible job before it went on the market. Because when it went on the market, there's these beautiful photos. They had transformed this dark looking house into this incredible, all white, very clean lines inside the house. And whenever I would walk Gus up the hill and back down again and all that as part of his walk and things, I always look at that house and it had that dark, foreboding feeling about it. But now it's white, it's bright. The photos show it's light and airy inside. And they have these, on the first level, they've turned this fabulous area out front into this outdoor patio, but they've got the walls fold all the way back into the walls. So the wall completely disappears except for this portion at either end. So now you have this indoor-outdoor space. And I'm like, oh, that would be awesome. Sit out there in the evenings when the sun is setting, magical views from there. And then upstairs they have the master bedroom, and they've completely redone the balcony off the master bedroom that now goes the width of the house instead of this little small thing the dog used to bark at Gus on, until Gus barked back once, and then we never heard the dog bark at Gus ever again. That's so funny. But it's an absolute. They've done a phenomenal job of renovating this place, and of course I saw the photos for the sale of the place were still up, and I went through and had a look. Wow, somebody had done a great job of purchasing the house and flipping it. A fantastic job. I mean, everything was white inside, with accents of grays. But like I said, it was clean, it was airy, it was bright, it was beautiful, and it sold in December of 2020. So, yeah, so it was kind of interesting to see. And then there was another house. Then there's another house in the same street, and this street is not full of houses. It's the street we lived on. It had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on our side, and there was 1, 2, 3 on the other, and then you went, and our road was a cul-de-sac, and then there was another cul-de-sac that went off. That there was probably about 8 or 9 houses down there. But just on the street that we're on, that's 3 houses that have gone on the market in the last 2 years. So it's interesting to see the changes that were made to the house that we lived in. Like, you go into the kitchen area, and in the kitchen area we had an island that came out and had the cooktop on it, and then there were cupboards above. Well, they've taken all those cupboards out from above and put in the single modern looking range hood that comes down and then just curves the glass over the cook area. It looks nice and open, and I thought, yeah, but I didn't have enough room for storage in the kitchen as it was. And we didn't have a lot of stuff with us, so that took out a big chunk of real estate in the kitchen for storage. But it looked good with that open area. And then they had a picture of the master bedroom. The master bedroom was the only one that they showed in the photographs. And I texted back to my landlord and said, "Oh, that's what the bedroom looks like with mirrored doors on it." Because we had no closet doors when we moved in. And the landlady was sort of like, if you want to go get them, let us know. We'll give you a price point on it, and just replace them with the mirrored doors or whatever. I said to Brett, I really don't like having mirrored doors on a closet like that, because it took up a big portion of the wall. And he's like, yeah. And so we kind of put it off. So when we left, there still were no closet doors on. And so I was in a big mess. Oh, that's what the closet looks like in the master bedroom with doors on. And they were all mirrored doors. The bathrooms were still the same, because the landlord had redone the bathrooms. The carpet had been redone. The carpet had been redone. We had painted. And they had, let's see, what did they do before we moved in? They redid both bathrooms, like gutted them and completely redid them. They put new carpet in all the bedrooms. The rest of the house was all tile. What else did they do? They painted the whole place inside. And what else did they do? Can't remember what else they did inside. There was a couple of... Oh, and then, that's right, because in the dining area, there was like a buffet area that you could have, and it was a solid wall, and that was wall backed onto the living room area. And they had this big mirror up there, and I was looking at that, and I said... And she said, yeah, we're trying to figure out what else to do. And I said, well, first thing I would do if I ever owned this place is I would take that mirror down and put a hole there through to the living room area. And so they did. And that's still there. And they had bar stools on the other side of that, because I said, and I would make and they put new countertops in. That was the other thing they did. And I said, and I would make the countertop cover this and go through the other side so it overhangs. And she's like, oh, I like that idea. So they did it. And yeah, they put the new countertops. The countertops are still the same. But yeah, it was kind of interesting to have a look through a house after we've been out of it for almost 3 years, to see some of the changes. And like the front yard, when we were there, was gorgeous. It had this gorgeous green grass. It had this amazing garden that was full of lots of really cool plants and things like that. And they've basically stripped the garden. It like barely exists, and the grass is like horrible in the front yard. And I thought, wow, I wonder what the backyard looks like. Well, they've fully fenced the backyard now, which it wasn't when we were there. And all the garden that went along the fence line has all been completely ripped out. And there was a couple of raised garden beds in the backyard. I don't know what they were growing in them. And again, the grass was basically destroyed. And we had this lush grass back there. So they've completely destroyed the yards as far as the gardens go. And the grass is like non-existent. So I'm wondering because we had a watering system that was there. So I'm wondering if they've ripped out the watering system and just, I don't know, for whatever reason, they've killed the grass off. I don't know why. But yeah, it was interesting to go back and have a look at that and just see what changes have been made since we lived there. But they only showed the master bedroom. They showed the 2 bathrooms, the kitchen and living room area inside. They didn't show the other 3 bedrooms, which I kind of thought that was odd because most places you do see the other bedrooms. But yeah, so that was kind of cool. So texted backwards and forwards on that about some of the changes that have been made. And I'm like, what did they do that for? Let's see what else. Oh, of course, today in history. Oh my gosh. So of course, as everybody has probably heard, today Queen Elizabeth II celebrates her 70th year since she ascended the throne on the 6th of February in 1952, when her father passed away. She is the longest reigning British monarch and the 40th British monarch since William the Conqueror. So think about that. It's been a lot of monarch, and she's only the 40th monarch since William the Conqueror, and she's been around for 70 years, which is the longest reigning British monarch ever. So huge congratulations to her on that. So she was in Kenya at the time when she found out that her father had passed away in his sleep, and so, of course, then they had to get her back to England and all that sort of stuff. But she didn't have her coronation until June 2nd, 1953, which is kind of cool because on the 29th, and not many people, I don't know if people know this or not, but on May 29th, 1953, is when Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay conquered Everest. And the word came down, and the Queen found out about it on the day of her coronation. So I thought that was kind of cool. Everybody's calling it a coronation gift. But Sir Edmund Hillary was part of a British expedition that went, he wasn't Sir Edmund Hillary at the time, by the way. He was part of the expedition that went to Nepal to conquer Everest, and him and Tenzing Norgay made it to the top. So congratulations to those guys. And then, of course, the other important thing that happened on this day was in 1840. And the Treaty of Waitangi, which is Waitangi is a place in New Zealand, and the Treaty of Waitangi was signed between the British Crown, representatives of the British Crown, and the Maoris, and it was New Zealand's founding document. And there were, and reading some of the history about the Treaty of Waitangi, I won't go deep into it, but reading some of the history about the how it came about, was that there were signs that the French wanted to annex New Zealand. The British government at first said no. The British government first said no, and then they decided, well, hang on, if we annex New Zealand, we provide protection for the Maoris, we can regulate the British subjects that have gone down there to colonize New Zealand, and they can secure commercial interests. So they then annexed New Zealand with the signing of the document on the 6th of February in 1840, and there were only a few people that signed it on that day, and then different copies were made and sent throughout the country to get the other Maori tribes to sign as well. And they ended up with like 530 or 540, somewhere around there, signatures from different Maori tribes. So yes, that was the other thing that happened. So today in New Zealand, it is either known as Waitangi Day or New Zealand Day, depending on where you are. But it's basically our national day. It didn't become a public holiday in New Zealand until like 1972. And now it's, because it's an official public holiday, if it falls on a weekend, oh, look at that, it fell on a weekend. Then it's celebrated, if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it's celebrated either the Friday or the Monday, the Friday before or the Monday after. So it's still a long weekend. Yeah, and there's different celebrations that take place throughout the country. And that is your trip in history. But here is the genealogy side of all of this. That's what I love. Are you related to any of the people that were in any of these events? Are you descendants from any of the people that were involved in any of these events, or somehow related to any of these people involved with the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, the British royal family, or were you even there? Where, if you were still alive in 1950, if you were alive in 1952, what do you recall about the news of Queen Elizabeth coming, ascending the throne? So I'm always curious about people's memories of times like this. So, that happened on the 6th of February, 1952. Her coronation was the following year on June 2nd, 1953. So, and it was the first one ever to be televised. Well, given the reason. And so were you a young child? Did you get to watch it? Did you get to watch the coronation that was held in 1953? Do you remember anything about King George VI passing, Princess Elizabeth becoming Queen Elizabeth II? Do you remember anything about her coronation? Do you remember anything about the news of Mount Everest being conquered? Yeah, that's the right word, conquered. Were any of your family or relative, or any of your descendants, any of your ancestors, oh, jeepers, had too much sleep. Were any of your ancestors or relatives involved in the conquering of Everest? Are you a descendant of anybody who was part of that British party, that British expedition group that went over to conquer Everest? What are the stories that you've heard over the years? So even if you weren't alive during that time, but your parents were, what stories have they told you about their memories of King George VI passing, Princess Elizabeth becoming Queen Elizabeth, the conquering of Everest? What stories do your parents remember about those times? Are there anybody in your ancestry that participated in any of this, that saw this, that were lining the streets when the coronation took place? So, it's just questions to ask. For those in my relatives didn't come to New Zealand until the 1870s to the 1880s. So they were not there in 1840. But it doesn't mean to say that there wasn't some distant cousin there or something. But I haven't gone back that far to find out yet. But I know that my ancestors didn't come across to New Zealand until the 1870s and the 1880s. So my chances of having somebody who is related, who I'm related to, that was at the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, is very, very slim. Unless it was a distant cousin, but I know my direct line. So unless it was a distant cousin that had come over beforehand or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic, sparkling evening. Go have a look back through your family history. Oh, and on this day, when was it? What was the other one? There was another one. Hang on. I think I still have the window open. It was on this day in 1891 that the Dalton gang committed the first train robbery, and even though it failed, that was the event that triggered their downfall, if you want to call it that, or their life of crime after that. So so the Dalton gang committed the first train robbery. Their first train robbery. Yeah, the Dalton gang committed its first train robbery on this day in 1891, and that's what led them into their life of crime. Even though they failed at it, they still went and did it. So for the Americans, do you have any relation to the Dalton gang? There's lots of different interesting things, and some things are kind of hidden in the family secrets that you really don't want them to come out and that sort of stuff. But sometimes in history are very fascinating, and that's what I love about the genealogy, is you get to uncover all this history stuff and things that people were involved with. So anyway, I'm out of here. Go have a super fantastic, sparkling rest of your Serenity Sunday evening. And we will catch you guys back here bright and early tomorrow morning for Magic Monday. Hey, konera.